A flurry of new indictments today ensnaring celebrities, CEOs, college coaches in a massive scheme to game the college admissions system. Felicity Huffman, an Academy Award nominee, and Lori Loughlin, the actress of Full House and Fuller House fame, just two of the more than 40 alleged participants in a wide-ranging conspiracy to cheat, bribe, and lie to get children of the super rich into elite university. Here's Andrew Lelling, U.S. Attorney for the District of Massachusetts, and the FBI Special Agent in charge, Joseph Bonavolonta.
We have charged 3 people who organized these scams, 2 SAT or ACT exam administrators, 1 exam proctor, 1 college administrator, 9 coaches at elite schools, and 33 parents who paid enormous sums to guarantee their children's admission to certain schools.
This is not a case where parents were acting in the best interests of their children. This is a case where they flaunted their wealth, sparing no expense, to cheat the system so they could set their children up for success with the best education money could buy, literally. Some spent anywhere from $200,000 to $6.5 million for guaranteed admission. Their actions were, without a doubt, insidious, selfish, and shameful.
CNN's Bryn Chingers joins us now live from Boston. She was right there as this was unveiled. Bryn, wow.
Yeah, exactly, John. I mean, how elaborate this scheme was, according to federal officials, that's what strikes me most. We're talking about just an enormous amount of people involved and now arrested. In some cases, some have already pled guilty, but also just how detailed these schemes were. Now, again, let's talk about the center of this all. His name is Rick Singer. According to authorities, he's already pled guilty to some federal charges, and he basically set up a nonprofit, and parents would come to him and basically ask for his help to get them into elite universities. We're talking about USC, Georgetown, Yale University, and he did it in 2 different ways. One route some parents would take is basically have their kids take SATs, ACTs, entrance exams, and he would either have someone who was very smart, as authorities say, retake those tests, changing some of those answers in order to get a higher score for those admission tests. In some cases, they would have their daughter or son go to a therapist and get more time to take those entrance exams. That was one route. Another route, according to federal authorities, was this singer would get in touch with athletic coaches at these universities and have students admitted through the athletic route, sometimes even faking pictures of these students as athletes, and basically bribing these athletic coaches to help these students get in that route. I know 2 names that we've been talking about who were parents that have been arrested is Felicity Huffman, an Academy actress, a nominee. Of course, we know her from Desperate Housewives, among other movies and shows. And then Lori Loughlin, we know her, of course, from Hallmark movies, Full House. She was the mom in Full House. According to these court documents, they took 2 separate routes. Felicity Huffman, if you go into these court documents, basically asked for Singer's help, allegedly, to take the tests for her daughter and declined to have him do the same thing for her second daughter. And federal authorities actually said they're not sure why she changed her mind for the second time around. When you look at the charging documents for Lori Loughlin, they said that they used Singer's help in order for her daughter to get into USC through Crew, even though she had no talent whatsoever with that sport. So again, a lot of details just came out in that news conference, and it's just mind-blowing, the amount of money that was pushed around, how many people were involved, the fact that even some of the children knew that this was happening, some of the children don't. Some of these students are still in colleges, but important to note, John, that according to these authorities, these universities that were involved had no knowledge of this, but this investigation is still ongoing.
Still ongoing, and interesting, the level of detail, amazing. Bryn Chingers, appreciate it, right in the room there where they just unveiled these charges. Our legal analysts, Jennifer Rogers and Paul Kellen, join the conversation now. Please don't follow me. You're a lot smarter than me when it comes to this, but let me just start with you first, Jennifer. When you hear the level of detail from the U.S. Attorney, the FBI, the IRS, obviously they say the ringleader is agreeing to plead guilty, so they flipped the guy at the top of the pyramid. What else is your big takeaway here?
Well, I'm just impressed by the scope of this investigation. I mean, as you said, they did apparently get Rick Singer to plead guilty. So clearly he, I think, has told them all about the scheme. That must be how they were able to wrap all of this up in just over a year, I think the U.S. Attorney said it took. So, you know, it's impressive scope. You know, hopefully these universities will be able to clean house. There are a lot of coaches here who I'm assuming will be fired. You know, what the schools choose to do about the students, you know, will be up to them. I'm sure they'll do their own investigations and decide how to proceed. But it's an impressive investigation. You know, I do hope that Rick Singer, if he's pleading guilty, didn't get a terrific deal out of this, a cooperation deal. You know, usually you wouldn't cooperate the head guy against people below him. So we'll have to wait and see when his documents are released, whether it's a cooperation agreement or just a plea agreement. But it's certainly an impressive takedown.
It's a great point about we'll see what the plea agreement is there. And Paul, you heard the U.S. Attorney say they got a tip. They were interviewing a target in a completely different investigation who apparently was trying to give them something, which happens a lot in law enforcement. I'm in trouble. Let me give you something else. Again, your biggest takeaway, and include for me, if you will, the significance of them using RICO, the racketeering statute here.
It's a fascinating use of the racketeering statute, which is customarily used against organized criminals. That's what it was designed for, and the feds now have figured out a way to apply it to college admissions. The result, this is probably the biggest college admissions scam in U.S. history. It's really kind of staggering in its dimensions. It's nationwide. It involves some of the top schools in the United States. And it's going down, by the way, at a time when Harvard's being sued for the way they admit minorities to their colleges. Here we have, on the other hand, parents who are bribing their way in to some of America's top colleges. And it's a very sophisticated scam that involved cheating on ACT and SAT scores, the forgery of false athletic resumes to make it look like you're some sort of a star athletically and deserve admission to an Ivy League college. So it's a fascinating use of the RICO statute to solve a crime.
And obviously to both of you, I mean, it'll get a ton of attention because of the celebrities involved. Two well-known actresses who obviously were trying to help their children and go to what the prosecutors say was incredibly corrupt and illegal efforts to do so. But you have A, two Hollywood stars. B, these schools, Yale, Stanford, USC, Wake Forest, Georgetown, athletic coaches who were taking bribes. In some cases, the prosecutor said the coach put all the money into the program, but in most cases they kept some of the money and either kept all of it or put it in. Just again, as you go through the level of detail here, what does it tell you, Jennifer?
Well, I don't even know how they put money into the program. I mean, these were illicit bribes going to the coaches, so I don't even know how they would put money into the program. I mean, one thing I think these colleges are going to have to think about, particularly those that have strong athletic programs like UCLA and USC and Stanford, are, you know, the oversight that they give to these coaches, and what do they do once these students arrive and, you know, all of a sudden they claim an injury or they're just not participating. You know, there ought to be more oversight of these athletic admissions, because clearly this Rick Singer person was able to recruit coaches from all over the country. I mean, how do you do that? You can't just walk in or pick up the phone and say, hey, would you like to take some illegal bribes? So the fact that he was able to get so many participants at these top colleges really, I think, should be a wake-up call to these schools to keep a better eye on this process.
And Paul, help me just a little bit about what we're talking about in terms of penalties. Again, I'm going to focus on the two known names. But if you go through the parents, all of the parents here, and some of them are from the business community, a lot of rich, privileged people here, but Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin both charged with conspiracy to commit mail fraud and honest services mail fraud. What are we looking at here in terms of potential punishments?
Well, for most all of the parents involved, you're looking at a felony that could lead to 5 years in federal prison. This, of course, depends upon what the federal guidelines are with respect to their involvement. But they're all very, very serious felonies with very, very serious jail sentences. They got a tough road ahead.
Tough road ahead, to say the least. Paul Kellan, Jennifer Rogers, appreciate it. Bryn Gingras as well.